There are other great personalities of the Divine Mother, but they were more difficult to bring down and have not stood out in front with so much prominence in the evolution of the Earth Spirit. There are among them presences indispensable for the supramental realization. Most of all, one who is her personality of that mysterious and powerful ecstasy and ananda which flows from a supreme divine love. The ananda that alone can heal the gulf between the highest heights of the supramental spirit and the lowest abysses of matter. The ananda that holds the key of a wonderful divinest life, and even now supports from its secrecies the work of all the other powers of the universe. But human nature, bounded, egoistic, and obscure, is inapt to receive these great presences, or to support their mighty action. Only when the four have founded their harmony and freedom of movement in the transformed mind and life and body, can those other rarer powers manifest in the earth movement and the supramental action become possible. For when her personalities are all gathered in her and manifested, and their separate working has been turned into a harmonious unity, and they rise in her to their supramental Godheads, then is the mighty Mother revealed as the supramental Mahashakti, and brings pouring down her luminous transcendences from their ineffable ether. Then can human nature change into dynamic divine nature, because all the elemental lines of the supramental truth consciousness and truth force are strung together, and the harp of life is fitted for the rhythms of the eternal. If you desire this transformation, put yourself in the hands of the Mother and her powers without cavil or resistance, and let her do unhindered her work within you. 3 things you must have: consciousness, plasticity, unreserved surrender. For you must be conscious in your mind and soul and heart and life and the very cells of your body, aware of the Mother and her powers and their working. For although she can and does work in you, even in your obscurity and your unconscious parts and moments, it is not the same thing as when you are in an awakened and living communion with her. All your nature must be plastic to her touch, not questioning as the self-sufficient ignorant mind questions and doubts and disputes, and is the enemy of its enlightenment and change, not insisting on its own movements as the vital in man insists, and persistently opposes its refractory desires and ill will to every divine influence, not obstructing and entrenched in incapacity, inertia, and tamas, as man's physical consciousness obstructs and, clinging to its pleasure in smallness and darkness, cries out against each touch that disturbs its soulless routine, or its dull sloth, or its torpid slumber. The unreserved surrender of your inner and outer being will bring this plasticity into all the parts of your nature. Consciousness will awaken everywhere in you by constant openness to the wisdom and light, the force, the harmony and beauty, the perfection that come flowing down from above. Even the body will awake and unite at last its consciousness subliminal no longer to the supramental superconscious force. Feel all her powers permeating from above and below and around it, and thrill to a supreme love and ananda. but be on your guard. And do not try to understand and judge the Divine Mother by your little earthly mind that loves to subject even the things that are beyond it to its own norms and standards, its narrow reasonings and erring impressions, its bottomless aggressive ignorance, and its petty self-confident knowledge. The human mind, shut in the prison of its half-lit obscurity, cannot follow the many-sided freedom of the steps of the divine Shakti. The rapidity and complexity of her vision and action outrun its stumbling comprehension. The measures of her movement are not its measures. Bewildered by the swift alternation of her many different personalities, her making of rhythms and her breaking of rhythms, her accelerations of speed and her retardations, her varied ways of dealing with the problem of one and of another, her taking up and dropping now of this line and now of that one, and her gathering of them together, it will not recognize the way of the supreme power when it is circling and sweeping upwards through the maze of the ignorance to a supernal light. Open rather your soul to her, and be content to feel her with the psychic nature, and see her with the psychic vision that alone make a straight response to the truth. Then the Mother herself will enlighten by their psychic elements your mind and heart and life and physical consciousness, and reveal to them too her ways and her nature. Avoid also the error of the ignorant mind's demand on the divine power to act always according to our crude surface notions of omniscience and omnipotence. For our mind clamors to be impressed at every turn by miraculous power and easy success and dazzling splendor. Otherwise it cannot believe that here is the divine. The Mother is dealing with the ignorance in the fields of the ignorance. She has descended there and is not all above. Partly she veils and partly she unveils her knowledge and her power, often holds them back from her instruments and personalities, and follows that she may transform them. The way of the seeking mind, the way of the aspiring psychic, the way of the battling vital, the way of the imprisoned and suffering physical nature. There are conditions that have been laid down by a supreme will. There are many tangled knots that have to be loosened and cannot be cut abruptly asunder. The Asura and Rakshasa hold this evolving earthly nature and have to be met and conquered on their own terms in their own long-conquered fief and province. The human in us has to be led and prepared to transcend its limits, and is too weak and obscure to be lifted up suddenly to a form far beyond it. The divine consciousness and force are there, and do at each moment the thing that is needed in the conditions of the labor. Take always the step that is decreed, and shape in the midst of imperfection the perfection that is to come. But only when the supermind has descended in you can she deal directly as the supramental Shakti with supramental natures. If you follow your mind, it will not recognize the Mother even when she is manifest before you. Follow your soul and not your mind. Your soul that answers to the truth, not your mind that leaps at appearances. Trust the divine power, and she will free the godlike elements in you and shape all into an expression of divine nature. The supramental change is a thing decreed and inevitable in the evolution of the earth consciousness. For its upward ascent is not ended, and mind is not its last summit. But that the change may arrive, take form and endure, there is needed the call from below with a will to recognize and not deny the light when it comes. And there is needed the sanction of the Supreme from above. The power that mediates between the sanction and the call is the presence and power of the Divine Mother. The Mother's power, and not any human endeavor and tapasya, can alone rend the lid and tear the covering and shape the vessel and bring down into this world of obscurity and falsehood and death and suffering truth and light and life divine and the immortal's ananda. So at the end, we've come back to the beginning. On the mother's birthday, 21 February 1927, he wrote what we know as the first chapter of this booklet, The Mother. And there, it calls for these same two things. He is deliberately here, connecting this idea of the great mother, the Mahashakti, here for a particular purpose to manifest the supramental in those and in an earth nature willing to receive it, a picture of her. She is that person. She is that manifestation. The mother who dwelt in the Sri Aurobindo ashram is the mother he is writing about. First chapter to the sixth chapter. But this idea is not a mere thought, nor is it simply the receipt in Sri Aurobindo of the long tantric tradition of worship of the Mahadevi, the Mahashakti, the Adi Shakti, Lalita, Tripura Sundari. All the names, all the images throughout the ages are bows, rays of radiance coming out of this resplendence, this original Supreme Mother. Already we have seen last week that these powers were at work in Sri Aurobindo by July 1912, long before he ever had the chance to meet the one that he would name as the Mother. These goddess powers, working together, were shape-shifting his nature, recreating his nature, establishing the basis of transformation in him. When he writes in such encouraging terms to those who read his book. He can state that not as empty rhetoric, but as something that has been factually based in himself. He has gone through the sadhanas. Took him more than 6 years to get the fixation of these divine elements, energies, and radiancies in him, but another number of years went into the shaping, the bringing forth of the manifestation in the one we know as the Mother, and drawing around her, encouraging a community that might be receptive, because these things cannot be done in isolation. There must be teamwork, if you will. Souls united to each other. It doesn't matter if they're all in the orbit of the Sri Aurobindo ashram. Many people were close to Sri Aurobindo and effectively engaged in this integral yoga, helping him and the Mother from the beginning, before the beginning, and long after the beginning of the ashram, seated in earning positions throughout India, working in the world. The ashram is itself a seed of light. But there must be many such seeds for there to be a tangible change in the earth nature. You can't place every wager on one place, given the velleities, the vagaries of human hearts and circumstances in the world. More is needed. More are needed. Souls must awaken. Those who are awake must act. And it is simple work. Attune yourself, aspiration, rejection, surrender. Consciousness, plasticity, to go in with that unreserved surrender. This is a book that we return to each time we enter the Mother's birth month of February. And I dare say that it will be continued, whoever may be doing the reading. But this is something that we offer in terms of a reorientation of our souls and our nature to our principal reason for being here. The world is dissatisfied. The world is divided. It is many things, but it aspires for unity. And unity cannot be attained without the leaving behind of the leading consciousness of the mind in evolving humanity to be replaced by an awakening to a divine spirit. That spirit is embedded in us as the soul, and it awaits us above as this supramental consciousness, an aspect of the Great Mother. She's waiting for her children to come home. I thought of reading to you a short passage from his Record of Yoga, at least published in this book, Record of Yoga. These are undated notes from December 1926. You remember that it was in November of 1926 that Siddhi Day occurred on the 24th. He withdrew and appointed the Mother as the leader of the entire community. She would be in dynamic charge of the sadhana and of the Conduct of the ashram. This I'm reading from page 1339. I think this is volume 11, yes. All is created by the Supreme Goddess, the Supreme and Original Mahashakti. All proceeds from her. All lives by her. All lives in her, even as she lives in all. All wisdom and knowledge are her wisdom and knowledge. All power is her power. All will and force, her will and force. All action is her action. All movement, her movement. All beings are portions of her power of existence. The note goes on from there, but you can see he was writing in December 1926 something that he would take up and reshape and pour more power and energy into in this last chapter of the booklet, The Mother. Can't be read without the first. Chapters 2 through 5 have their importance and their salience for us, but the first and the sixth we must keep near us. This will be a short evening, but it will not end before I've read from Savitri, a short passage. This is in Book 3, the Book of the Divine Mother. Canto 4, The Vision and the Boon. It is at the bottom of 345 that we begin. His prayer sank down in the resisting night, oppressed by the thousand forces that deny, as if too weak to climb to the supreme. But there arose a wide consenting voice. The spirit of beauty was revealed in sound. Light floated round the marvelous vision's brow, and on her lips the immortal's joy took shape. O strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry. One shall descend and break the iron law, change nature's doom by the lone spirit's power. A limitless mind that can contain the world, a sweet and violent heart of ardent calms, moved by the passions of the gods shall come. All mights and greatnesses shall join in her. Beauty shall walk celestial on the earth. Delight shall sleep in the cloud net of her hair. And in her body, as on his homing tree, immortal love shall beat his glorious wings. A music of griefless things shall weave her charm. The harps of the perfect shall attune her voice. The streams of heaven shall murmur in her laugh. Her lips shall be the honeycombs of God. Her limbs his golden jars of ecstasy. Her breasts the rapture flowers of paradise. She shall bear wisdom in her voiceless bosom. Strength shall be with her like a conqueror's sword, and from her eyes the Eternal's bliss shall gaze. A seed shall be sown in death's tremendous hour, a branch of heaven transplant to human soil. Nature shall overleap her mortal step. Fate shall be changed by an unchanging will. You know, there is a tradition within the tradition of the 1,000 names of the Divine Mother, Sri Lalita Sahasranama, that although all point back to, all radiate from Sri Lalita, she who transcends, still, if there is a central secret, it is that she is this beauty. She is this wonderful, magical presence, flowing with light and honey. And that is the secret and the key of it all. Yes, even the dissolution of darkness, even the resolutions that we seek for in the antinomies of life, comes back to this foundational beauty and love. It is that. Dear friends, or brothers and sisters, fellow travelers, souls all, thank you for bearing with your younger brother here. I wish you all much speed on the path to your soul. And then, never to leave it, always to live from it. Stay well. Much love to you. Namaste. Jai Ma.